make it this time. We're gonna take it home. Let's go. Let's go. Do it.
Mets fans, welcome back to another Mets RoundTable Podcast right here on all of our channels. I believe Hayden is on his channel. If not, make sure you still subscribe to that channel. That's okay. So we got Chris here. We got Hayden here. A couple of guys from the Roundtable. So we are going to get started very quickly here today because the Mets are absolutely terrible, and we all know that. And everybody will be voicing their opinions on this stream today, and everybody make sure you please hit on that like button and make sure subscribe, follow to both of their channels. Check out both of these guys. They know what they're talking about. They are very good at what they do, and unfortunately for them, they're also Met fans, so we just have to deal with all the nonsense that the Mets give us every single day. So we're going to start right away. We're going to say what up to Chris and let everybody know, if you haven't seen us yet, give a little intro for everybody and what's going on with your channel as of late, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, what's up? What's up, everyone? Thank you. Appreciate it. It's always good to be back on another Roundtable Pod episode. Streaming to my channel as well. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you go ahead and subscribe over there as well. Going to be doing, obviously, we get to watch another day of Mets baseball. Going to be doing a post-game show live on my channel right after the final out of the game. With Amish Country Mets fan Nelson and my boy Flushing Sunny 41, Matt. So we're going to be giving our thoughts and opinions on the game, kind of some analysis there. Obviously, I do Mets baseball. I'm a mixed bag: football, hockey, basketball, all that good stuff. But we got to serve the people what they want. We got to talk some Mets baseball today. So regardless if we want to be up here talking about negativity, we got to do it. We got to serve the people. So appreciate it, Rob.
All right, man. So Hayden, everybody, most people on my channel know Hayden. So Hayden, just give you a little intro. I know you just had a Mets Talk Live earlier today. So let everybody know what that was about, which we probably know, but also what else is going on with you and the channel.
Yeah, what's going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. Hope everyone is doing extremely well. Besides the Mets, I'm doing pretty well. No major complaints. Good to be back on Rob and Chris podcast, of course. It's always great. Obviously, Rob and I did the Show Bridge podcast yesterday, and then obviously I've been, Mets Talk live stream about 2 hours ago. Did pretty well, so appreciate everyone for tuning in. But yeah, if you want to check me out, hopefully most people know me by now. Rob and I are a great duo, and obviously now we have other people joining, so super happy about that. But yeah, check me out, Mets Talk with Hayden, live streams, analysis, prospects, analytics, all that great stuff. And yeah, let's go Mets. Let's ride.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. So, again, follow them on Twitter at CPNY Sports and, of course, at Mets Hayden on Twitter. Give them a follow, and, you get all the information you need for their channels, for their pods, and all that fun stuff. So we're going to get started right away with the series that just happened, and I'm watching, unfortunately, the encore from yesterday. Mets-Cardinals recap. Game 1, it looked like, all right, Mets back on track. Got a decent game there. Wasn't too much of a worry. Everything seemed like it worked well. Miguel pitched well. The offense kind of clicked a little bit, and it looked like they actually formed a baseball team. And then the next 2 games happened, and that's the unfortunate part. So we're going to start with Chris really quick about this series. What were your concerns about this series, and what did you think you could take out of this Cardinals series and say, all right, let's get to Texas, let's get to Houston, and use it to try to beat this damn Astros team, even though the Mets can't beat anybody at this point. But what are the negative and the positive you've seen from this series, Chris? What were your thoughts about it, actually?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go into the most pressing issue and the biggest issue that I had in Game 3. I know we had some dialogue back and forth on Twitter, Rob, about it, but it was Buck Showalter's decision inevitably to take out David Robertson after throwing 8 pitches in the 8th inning. He threw Adam Ottavino, who led up the home run, the game-winning home run, go-ahead home run to Nolan Arenado. Wasn't a fan of the decision. I think what we could have had in that series was, maybe Robertson goes back out there for the 9th. The Mets, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to say that they would win that game if Robertson goes back out there, but you give them a better chance to win that game if Robertson goes back out there, in my opinion. And things might have looked a little bit different. We might have been singing a little bit of a different tune today. Maybe not so much different, but maybe we could have won a series. But inevitably, I'm not going to say that was the decision that lost us the game. The pitching was bad. Cookie Carrasco was bad. Ottavino, again, is not 2022 Adam Ottavino so far in 2023, which is unfortunate. Not good in high leverage situations, which is why I was an advocate for managing for that day instead of managing for tomorrow. That's why I'm an advocate for that, because when you have a team that's 33-38 or 33-37 at the time, struggling to buy wins in the present, you can't be managing for tomorrow. You just cannot be. Who knows? Maybe we would have taken that series if Robertson goes back out there. Maybe we walk it off in the ninth. Can't say for sure, but that could have been a positive we take forward to the Houston series, right? But now we don't even have that to build off of. But it's great that we have Dave Robertson now available tonight, right? So that's the negative for me. I don't like that decision. McGill was really solid in game one. I want to see how he does against the Astros. We need more consistency out of McGill. Kodai Senga kind of faltered. Cookie Carrasco, I don't know what to say about Cookie Carrasco anymore. I mean, I was trying to stay positive about him, but it's just really impossible when he goes out there and he just throws 90 miles per hour. His changeup's not working. He doesn't have any put-away pitches. Yeah. Mets offense looked decent. They looked good in the last game, to be honest with you. Tommy Pham, 100% a positive. I love me some Tommy Pham right now. Guy who I've been bashing all season long so far. He deserved full props. I said it on 2 Roundtable podcasts ago. He's been the Mets' best player, I think, bar none, top to bottom, pitching, whatever, best player over the last 3 weeks. He deserves his props. I'm going to shout him out. And also, another guy who I've been hard on was Dominic Leone. He's tossed some great scoreless innings as of recent. I think it's been a week and a half. Not sure exactly how many scoreless innings, but he deserves his props as well. But we'll see how tonight goes. That's my takeaway. Not many positives. Obviously, a struggling Cardinals team that you lose to a series again. You lose another series too. And things could have played out different. Maybe if Buck Showalter decides to throw Robertson out there in the 9th inning. But that's how I view it. And it was just a managerial mistake. And it just seems to keep on piling on top of the already negatives of the season. So that's my take on the Cardinals series.
All right, Hayden, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, obviously looking at it, it was a series where you went in and, the Mets and Mets fans were in an interesting spot. I mean, you're coming in playing the 3rd worst team in baseball, the worst team in the National League. And, I, to an extent, actually had some optimism. Obviously, you walked it off against the Yankees. Brandon Nimmo with the walk-off double. Played adequate in the Subway Series, and then you hope that they could build off of that. There's been so many moments where this team was just able to build off of stuff. I mean, we thought that Rays walk-off with Alonso and then the Guardian Series, that would have been the turning point of the season, but clearly that was just a 1-week wonder. And then ever since, they've just been poo-poo. So, I mean, looking at it right now, it was a rough series to watch. I mean, you look at game one, and I mean, I would argue that was really the only series that this team is really, or the only game that the Mets have had in a while that was stress-free. Obviously, the Mets got on the board early on. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I stand corrected. That was the first time the Mets scored 3 runs in the first inning this year. And considering it is June 17th then or 16th, that's pretty sad. So yeah, that is pretty sad. But regardless, looking at that, you go into game one, McGill pitched well. Obviously the strikeouts were there. He had 7 strikeouts. What I liked about McGill was he changed up his approach a little bit on the mound, and I don't know if anyone else noticed, but we saw with his stride, he was a lot slower when it came to building up his release. And then when he released, he didn't so much whip it, but it was very fast. So, when he went to kind of get into his windup, he was slow, and then he really released the ball quickly. And we know that's been something that McGill doesn't, have a release point anymore. The Mets destroyed it. So I don't know if that was Hefner, but really good to see McGill have that. I mean, I'm not expecting much from McGill. Like I said, expectations with Tyler McGill have kind of went in the toilet, but really any start that I'll have, I guess, is progress. Hopefully we could see last year McGill or 2021 McGill. Bullpen's been good. Offense was good, obviously. Really good hitting. 2-out hitting, if I may say. We saw so many times this week where this team hit with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. Very, very crucial. And this team, it's not the offense. You're scoring 6 runs. You're scoring 7 runs. You should win that. It's the pitching. And, I mean, Rob, everyone, we've all agreed, it's the pitching. When your pitching is giving up 7 runs as a starter in 3 innings or 6 runs, well, yeah, that's kind of a concern. And then, obviously, you go in, and then it's more of a burden and more pressure on your offense. So, yeah, game 1 was good, and then, they went into game 2, and Senga had a weird start. Really, really tough the first 2 innings and was able to dial in. Offense wasn't able to, see that clutch hitting. They had ample opportunities with guys in scoring position, and they kind of, Cardinals bullpen has been horrible this year, and of course they made them look great. And yesterday's game, I didn't even watch, and maybe that was a good thing. Carrasco, horrible. I'm done with him. We discussed it yesterday. I don't understand why Billy Epler brought him back. I don't even care that it's a 1-year deal. This dude is on the decline. Velocity is down. His stuff isn't as sharp as what it used to be. He's horrible. I would have much rather signed Bassett or heck, even Taijuan Walker over Carlos Carrasco when it came to it. But he obviously 3 innings pretty much put the Mets out of it. Bullpen grinded. Pretty much everyone looked good. I agree with Chris. That was one thing after seeing. Originally, I was like, okay. And then when I saw that Robertson only pitched 8 pitches and 7 of those were in the strike zone, I'm kind of like, why are we putting Ottavino in for the 9th inning to face the meat of the order in guys like Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt? I think it was the top of the order. Correct me if I'm wrong. We know that Buck Showalter's philosophy all of last year and all of this year is your reliever, Diaz and Robertson, to face the meat of the opposing team's order. And then now he puts in Ottavino. Why are we managing for tomorrow? This is a team that's been horrible this year. Focus on today's game. Focus on today. Don't focus on tomorrow. Don't focus on a week from now. Because I guarantee you tonight, they could probably be, the Astros could probably win 12-1. And then do you think the Mets are going to need Robertson for the 9th inning? No. Or in a miracle, the Mets, it's the other way around. Are you going to use Robertson? No. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Heck, there could be a delayment. There could be a postponement. So why are we focusing on tomorrow? And that is my one thing with Buck. Focus on today. You're a team that was 33-37, now 38. I don't care about tomorrow. I really don't. Focus on tomorrow when it comes. I get it. You used a lot of your bullpen. Obviously, we talked about how this bullpen is overtaxed and overburdened. But yeah, I don't like to sit here and blame Buck a whole lot, but that is one kind of move where I'm like, it wasn't the best move. Offense looked good. All 7 runs were scored with 2 outs, and could only tell you when the last time that happened. So the offense is looking good. Tommy Pham has been a great contributor. Brandon Nimmo. Good to see Alonso back. Not the results, but hopefully he could. I was happy when I saw he was activated from the IL, but I was kind of like, I don't know if they rushed him back, and all the steroids that are probably in his hand right now. I wasn't, he looked a little off yesterday, but obviously we'll see how that goes. He hasn't faced live batters in 10 days, so we'll see how he is tonight in Houston. Obviously, he has good numbers at Minute Maid Park, but no, happy Alonso's back. The Vientos send down. I'm happy. I hate to say it, but let him play every day. And the Vogelbach mental health, that's the most stupid thing I've ever heard of. I'm sorry. That's what the minor leagues are for. That's what the IL is for. If you can't handle playing at the MLB level, then don't be a baseball player. It's as simple as that. And I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but Vogelbach, he had a useless home run when the Mets were up 5-1. And then everything else, he's swinging and not swinging and taking fastballs right down the knees. I can't with him. So honestly, an embarrassment of a series. I think this was by far one of the worst series I think the Mets could play because, like I said, everyone says, the Cardinals were such a bad team. I think the Mets are in that category too right now. Good teams are able to beat the Cardinals, the Tigers, the Rockies both times, the Nationals both times, and they're not getting that done. So, yeah, I think very concerned for this Mets team ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say,
Chris.
Rob, Vogelbach is not back because of that home run. I missed that in my spiel. He's not back. Yeah, and I saw some stuff floating around Mets Twitter. No.
I think we all knew that, to be honest. I think it was just wishful thinking just because anything can be good at this point when it comes to him. But, yeah, you guys spit a lot of facts out there. Yeah, exactly. And look, you guys, talked a lot of truth there. And the one thing I got to say about the Buck decision yesterday was the fact that he's done this before this year, multiple times. And sometimes it was Robertson in the 8th. And, some occasionally throw him in the 9th. Sometimes he would do Ottavino in the 8th, Robinson in the 9th. He used to split it up. And I don't think nobody talked about it. And maybe you guys remember or not, but in game 2 of the series, Ottavino actually made Goldschmidt and Arenado look stupid in game 2. So I think that was the thought process. Even though I didn't agree with Buck, I think 8 pitches, bring back Robinson out there. I understood the concept of why he thought to bring Ottavino back in, because he made them look stupid in game 2 later in the game. So I think that was the reason for that. But then again, when you really think about it, you got an MVP and one of the better hitters in baseball in Arenado that can easily adjust to what Ottavino was throwing. But again, when you throw a 92 miles an hour fastball right down the middle, it's bad in practice for Arenado. So I don't care who you are. That was something that Ottavino cannot do in that spot. And you know what? Buck trusted his guy who got those same batters out the day before. So I guess that was the reason why he did that. Again, I didn't agree with it. I even said it on my stream. I was like, Robinson has to come out in the 9th. No, that just makes sense. It was 8 pitches. Why the hell not? But his thought process was that. Again, I didn't agree with it, but I understand the thought process. Unfortunately for us, it cost us the game. And that's on Ottavino as well. You got to pitch. You can't have, a 2 ERA last year and then come back with a 4 ERA this year and, be a completely, totally different pitcher, and we can't trust you. And that is the way Buck has to deal with this bullpen right now. Even though the bullpen hasn't been terrible and it's probably the least of our worries now. But there's 3 things that I wanted to take out of the positive bucket, I guess, is Tyler McGill looked good, slowing down his motion, as Hayden said, which is nice to see. And as a big guy, he needs to slow down his motion. There's a lot of moving parts there. And when you slow down your motion, you kind of get your arm in the right position while you're throwing that pitch. And you could see how well his pitches were during that game in game 1. The other thing was the bullpen. The bullpen was extremely good. Besides Ottavino, Dominic Leone has been amazing and probably been one of our best bullpen arms other than Robertson, and that's nice to see because we need another guy because Drew Smith is absolute dog shit, and when he comes back from suspension, bury him because I don't want to see him in a big spot again for this team. Dominic Leone is the guy that I want to see now. Now, he might not be the guy, but put up a guy in that spot where you can actually say, you know what, he's looked good. You trust him in big spots, throw him out there. If he blows up, well, you tried, right? Grant Hardwick was just called up today from AAA. This is his major league, first time in the majors. We'll see what he can do wearing number 93. That's another arm in the bullpen that we might get lucky on. He throws pretty hard, 96, 97. He's got decent stuff. We'll see if he can actually make it in the big leagues. At this point, try any arms you can. And the third thing was what Hayden said. 7 runs yesterday with 2 outs. That's something that is unheard of for the 2023 Mets. 2022 Mets, they were one of the best in baseball in 2-out RBIs. That was a nice sign to see. And maybe they can take that positive and say, let's take it on to Houston. That would be nice. So Grant, who's in the chat right now, is going to Minute Maid Park right now to root on our Mets. And he's going to take all the credit, apparently, if the Mets win. So maybe you can help Buck manage today and start screaming, don't put him in. And maybe it'll work. We'll see. So,
when I go to Miami, it works all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just hope that they bring a little bit of those positives. They're very little because there's not much positives taken out of a 2-game series loss against the Cardinals, who didn't look very good. Even though lineup looks good, they should be better. But we should have beat them. And I think yesterday was one of those games where the offense came back every single time Carrasco continued to give up runs. And I thought they were going to win that ball game, to be honest with you. I thought Ottavino was going to get out of it, and the Mets were going to win it in the 9th. And that's the way I felt. Unfortunately, they love to break our hearts. So going to the series starting today, the Astros and the Mets in Minute Maid Park in Houston. Grant is going to be cheering for all of us out there. So, I don't know what to think about this series. I do feel like they're going to play well. that doesn't mean they're gonna come out on the winning side. But I do think that when it comes to the Astros, they're struggling right now. I think they lost 8 of the last 11. Their offense hasn't really been that good. Besides Tucker, everybody else has been struggling in that lineup. So maybe Scherzer can take advantage of that. We'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets give Scherzer a lead. It's just a matter of, can he hold it? I mean, how many starts this year did the Mets give him a lead and he blew it? So that's something that I think the Mets offense is looking pretty good. Tommy Pham is our best hitter in the lineup right now, and he's playing every day. Good for him. I know Chris said that Pham was one of the guys he killed all season. And I wasn't waving my pom-poms for Tommy Pham when we signed him, but I thought he would be a good addition, not this important. But I mean, he's won a lot of games for us, and every ball he hits now is just like 100 miles an hour, with exit velo of 100 or more. So let's see what happens. I do think the Mets are going to take 2 out of 3. I'll probably get killed in the comments, but that's okay. I take enough backlash from our own Mets, so why not just take it from everybody else? But 2 out of 3, I think that's what's going to happen for the Mets. I think they're going to find a way, especially with Scherzer and Verlander. Especially Verlander is going to make us be in these games, and I think the offense is going to come through for us like they have been over the last couple of weeks. Scoring a little above 5.5 runs per game over the last 3.5 weeks, which is nice to see from the season average of 4.5 runs per game. So, Chris, what do you think about the Astros series? What do you think are the keys to the series for the Mets to be successful? And what are your predictions for the series?
Yeah, one for sure is definitely the starting pitching. Obviously, Scherzer, all eyes are going to be on him today. He's been struggling. I need to see something productive out of Scherzer because that guy I'm going to continually get on if he doesn't perform. Justin Verlander, like you said as well, in game 2, I think I will give my prediction. I'm going to agree with you, Rob. I am not optimistic about this team moving forward, but I am optimistic about this series. I think we take 2 of 3, and those 2 guys are going to be the ones to do it. But who knows? The typical Mets fashion would be McGill throwing a gem against the Astros and Scherzer putting up a stinker after game 1. Who knows how it's going to be? Buck Showalter needs to manage. He needs to put on his big boy pants and manage the way that a tenured manager should manage, right? That Robertson decision, like you said, it's not the only time that he's done something like that. And he just hasn't been burned by it more times than not, especially going into last season, obviously. But he needs to manage, this team in a better light if we're going to have any sort of, aspirations of the playoffs. Going forward from here, I don't know if we'll touch on it. Obviously, we can kiss the division goodbye. I'm still hopeful for the wild card, but the division is out of reach. I'm calling it out of reach. The wild card is what I'll be looking ahead to. Obviously, we're going to get into the deadline, but I think the Mets take 2 or 3 in Houston. I really want to see the bats stay alive. Lindor, I really wish Lindor could just bat from the right-handed side of the batter's box every single at bat. His at bats from the left to right are night and day difference. You can see it. It's something that's just indisputable. Same thing with Escobar. But that's neither here nor there. I don't think we'll see that happen this year, but I definitely would not be opposed to. The Mets take 2 or 3 in Houston, I think. The bullpen guys are going to have to bring their A game as well. Dominic Leone's going to play a huge part on this team, not only this series, but for the whole season going forward. He's immersed himself as that guy, before Rayleigh gets in and before Robertson gets in. Adam Ottavino, we'll see if he's able to sort of get it together, but I need some more consistency from the starting pitching. Like you said, we've all agreed on it. Like Hayden said as well, this team's problem is not the offense whatsoever. They're putting up the runs necessary to win ball games. The pitching through and through is what's the issue with this team. So like I said, the key to any series moving forward is going to be the pitching. I'm not worried about the Mets offense. I'm really not. I think Alonso will come around. We'll see. We'll monitor him this series. Obviously, with the hand situation, I respect that he came back early. Huge Pete Alonso fan, and we need him in the lineup, but we need him producing. Marte needs to get back going. He's been struggling here and there. He's been having his spurts this season, but overall the consistency hasn't been there. Brandon Nimmo has been a staple for this team, so he provides whatever he provides, and I routinely rely on him in the lineup. But just the back end of it, Canna's here or there, hit or miss. Vogelback in the lineup tonight, we know we're going to get out of him, right? It's going to be a walk every third at bat, and then we can pretty much count on nothing for production-wise after that. So, listen, all the negatives I'm pointing out here is something that can be discussed. We can talk about it all day. I'm sure we will if the trajectory of the season keeps going the way it's going. I do think, though, somehow, some way they will pull 2 out of 3 off in Houston. Am I saying that's going to kickstart this season? I think someone in the comments section mentioned something about the Rays series kickstarting a little spurt for the Mets earlier on this season. Do I think this series has the potential to do that moving forward with how brutal the June schedule is? No, I'm not expecting that, even if we do win the series, but I think the series is winnable. We're not going to see Yordan Alvarez. I think he's injured for the Astros, and this is an Astros team that just got swept by the Reds too. So if the Mets can take advantage of an ailing Astros team, I think now's the time to do it with your top 2 guys, the Verlander and Scherzer headlining those games to start off with, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, that, the Mets are for sure taking the series. I'm saying that with as much hesitancy as I can display through the screen right now. But I do think it's 2 out of 3. I'll agree with you, Rob, and I'll pass the torch on to Hayden. I want to get his thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a series where, expectations, well, there really are none. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, I've been saying that for the past couple weeks now, and nothing's really changed. You look at this Astros, you look at this Houston Astros team, 39-33, 20-18 at home. Looking at the Astros, they're not as dominant as they are last year. Obviously, dealing with a couple key losses. Obviously, the injury of Yordan Alvarez has definitely been an unfortunate hit for that lineup. Jeremy Pena hasn't quite been, he's been having a little bit of a sophomore slump. Alex Bregman gone for a little bit, having a slow start getting back. They got Altuve back. He's hitting well. Kyle Tucker's been hitting pretty well. Jose Abreu, not quite what he panned out to be. Mauricio Dubon actually has been playing very well. I've seen him play a lot in spring training, obviously. So he's an interesting guy to look out for. But this Astros team heavily relies on their pitching. Hunter Brown having a great rookie campaign. He's looking great. Framber Valdez, Christian Javier. Obviously, you have a couple injuries. Lance McCullers is on the IL. Jose Urquidy as well. Offensive pieces in Yordan Alvarez and Michael Brantley. But this is still a good team. Offensively, they're identical to the Mets offense. I actually compared the two, and average-wise, OBP-wise, slugging-wise, home run-wise, and hits-wise, they're all like 5 points away from each other. And in terms of like runs, I think the Mets have like 4 more home runs against them. But I don't want to compare a team like that. But it's the pitching that is making the Astros in the spot they are. Obviously, they just got swept against the Reds. They're 1-4 in their last 5. Mets are 2-3 in their last 5. So maybe that's the only positive you could take out of that. But it's going to be the pitching. I'm not – your offense, yeah, you are facing up against good pitchers, but if this is a team that loves to play small ball, well, I think now is a decent time to play it to an extent. Guys like Nimmo are getting on, Marte getting on. We've seen that Marte has earned his spot back number 2 in the lineup, and I think it's somewhat worthy. We'll see how that continues, but if this team is scoring 5 runs, they should be winning ball games. It's as simple as that. Rob, on Rob's stream yesterday, on my stream, I read the statistics when they score 6 runs, 7 runs, and then going down 5 and 4, and comparing it to this year and last year. And you guys can kind of expect what it was. Yeah. Sorry. So, this team just needs to, like I said, they're driving the runs, but they're pitching. It's an embarrassment that we're sitting here begging for your aces and Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer to go 6-7 innings, not giving up 10 runs. It's sad that I'm sitting here saying if Scherzer goes 3 innings, 6 runs, I wouldn't be surprised. It's in June, and that's the mentality of this team right now, is to go 7 innings for a quality start. And, Scherzer's been probably about equal in terms of good and bad. I mean, I'd say 5 and 5 maybe. Verlander's been more bad than good. Scherzer's, like I said, kind of a split. And then McGill, we'll see what we get from McGill. He could either get rocked or he could have a decent start. We'll see. Hopefully he can continue to go with that stride, the motion, the release point. Hopefully that could work. Throw that cutter. I like McGill's cutter. That's kind of been a sneaky pitch for him lately. Simply enough, starting pitching. If they're going deep into the game, I think there's a decent chance they win. This is an Astros lineup that's good. Pitching is good. Bullpen's good. Mets going against a good team. It's that simple. I could see not much positivity from this. I don't want to say they'll get swept, but I really think that may happen. Houston just got swept against Cincinnati. Their needs of wins. They have their aces going on, and we'll see how their aces go. Probably pretty well. Maybe they could teach the Mets a thing or two. But, I hate to say it, but honestly, I'll be honest. I think they're going to get swept. And I think if they take one game, that's an accomplishment. And that's sad. So we'll see how it goes. Positivity from the fans is rock bottom. And, I mean, they've already been at rock bottom. But we'll see how things go. Hopefully they can clean it up. I mean, expectations are not good for this team, but like I said, they've been very sloppy lately. And if they can go out there and not be sloppy, then I think we could expect a good outing.
Yeah,
Mets historically struggle with the Astros as well, so we'll see how that plays. They've been kicking our asses for the last couple of years, so we'll see what happens with that. So that's a good point.
Yeah, even last year they beat us up all over the place. That 101 win team, they beat us up pretty good.
They went 4-0 against us, right? They won both games.
I believe it was. Yeah. It was a shit show. But yeah, you know what? They showed a graphic yesterday on SM or Pix 11, whatever the hell it was, where the Mets lost 9 games where they scored 6 runs or more. Now it's 10 games from yesterday. When they score 6 runs or more, they've lost 9 of those games. Even if you win half of those games, the Mets are basically 500. And that just shows you that games like that you can't lose. Any Major League Baseball game, if you score 5 runs, you should, I would say, 7 out of 10 times win those games. And that's only 70% out of every 10 games. 70%. That's where it should be, right? On the MLB average, if you score 5 runs, is around 68%. So it's basically 7 out of 10 if you score 5 runs or more. Oh, for 5 runs, excuse me. So that's where the Mets are. And then on top of that, we go back to the pitching. 19-2 when a Mets starter goes 6 innings or more. That's another stat. So if you put that 9 games where you scored 6 runs or more and you lost, and you put that with 19-2 when a starter goes 6 innings or more, well, that's why they're 33-38 right now. And that is the problem. And, again, I know somebody brought it up that, the Mets been shut out 8 times this year. I understand that, but look at all the other teams that are struggling with the top 7 payrolls, right? One team's in the playoffs right now, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers, right? So the Padres aren't looking good. The Yankees, I don't care without Judge. That's basically, they have a $275 million payroll. So, this is not a basketball team where you can have 1 star and try to find your way through a playoffs, right? It goes the same way. And you see, without Alonso, the Mets still score runs. So the Mets, yes, are reliant on Alonso, but their lineup isn't completely shut down when Alonso is not playing. There's other guys on there that can score some runs or do some damage. Look at the Yankees, right? They're the second highest payroll in baseball. I don't hear anybody talking about them. All I hear is, Cohen's $1 billion. That's all I've been hearing. Yeah, the Padres. Look at all the teams. I mean, what top 7 in baseball? There's one team in the playoffs right now, and that's a wild card team in the Dodgers. So let's not act like it's only the Mets. Again, the Mets shouldn't get any excuses. They need to be better. But all you see, all the headlines, Mets, and nobody's talking about the other teams. Where the Padres, like Hayden said yesterday on the Shea Bridge show, we're spending money, a lot of money, before the Mets are spending a lot of money. And nobody's talking about them. So I didn't want to get too far into the payroll because, again, money doesn't win you championships. We all know that. And the one time that actually happened was when the Yankees, right before George Steinbrenner passed away, wanted to get one more championship. And that's when I brought in, Beckett. Burnett. Who the hell they bring in? Beckett, right? That's who it was. Beckett, Sabathia, and Teixeira, I think it was. Or AJ Burnett, I think it was.
It's Burnett. It was Burnett.
Yeah, Burnett,
You're right.
Teixeira, and Sabathia. And it got them the World Series, and that's when they spent what, $600 million, $500 million between those three guys. So money doesn't buy you championships. We all know that. There's got to be a balance, but this team should be better. Even with Alonso out of the lineup, the Mets were scoring 5 runs per ball game without Alonso through that 10-game stretch. So they were scoring runs. It's coming back down to the pitching. And putting this as a whole, and to end the last topic of the night, there's been a lot of talk about the Mets being sellers at the deadline. And my, I guess, line of demarcation, either you're going to be on the side of being a buyer or being on the other line of being a seller. I always believe, even with the 2 wildcard teams prior to last year, or now 3 wildcard teams, if you're 3 games or less from a wildcard spot or a playoff spot, let me just put a playoff spot, I think that you should be, even if it's minimal buying, you should be a buyer to make your team better. Even if it's minimal players to make this team a little bit better. 3 games or less to get to a playoff, to be in a playoff spot, I believe is that line to be a buyer. If you're 4 games out, you can go either way. I won't be mad if the Mets, choose either one. But anything higher than that, I think they got to sell. There's a couple of pieces that the Mets can sell, and maybe we'll get into that if we have enough time. But that's where I am. July 1st is the day. At July 1st, which is about, 11, 12 days away, if the Mets are in 3 games or less from a playoff spot, they need to be sellers. There's enough couple of guys in his team, specifically Robertson, that you can get a top 10 prospect in probably any system you probably want, who's looking for a top line and reliever. Because last year, as I talked about on the Shea Bridge show, Ben Brown, the Cubs got for Robertson last year, who was one of the Phillies' top prospects, and now is top 5 in the Cubs farm system, and is probably going to be up very soon, if not next year, probably next year, but if not this year for the Cubs. So that's a haul for a guy that wasn't even really closing last year. I mean, he was for the Cubs, but he wasn't in really a lot of big spots. So, and he didn't really do nothing for the Phillies last year. So one of the best relievers in baseball closes in New York. You can probably get a top 10 pitching prospect for Robinson. And I think the Mets need to do that. So if they become sellers. So Chris, deadline sellers, if the Mets are where at on July 1st or any spot where you think they should be sellers now or buyers, what is the mark where you say, all right, they need to sell at this point? What do you think?
I'm not sure if I know it's an exact line of demarcation like you just said. I think you said 3.5 or 3, somewhere around there. Maybe if I had to say one, it'd probably be 5.5, just because I think that you have a whole another half of the season. What I want to say about the trade deadline is that I don't think the Mets are going to be sellers no matter what. I think their line of demarcation probably is 10 games, to be honest with you. I don't think they're going to be buyers, even if they are in prime spot, to go ahead and make a playoff run by the deadline as well. Last year, they were quote-unquote buyers. They got Naquin, they got Vogelback, they got Ruff. I mean, that was technically quote-unquote buyers' decisions. And what do we get out of that? I mean, we got to the playoffs as a wild card after choking away a division, and we got beat pretty handily by the Padres 2-1. And our bats got mowed down because and I know your stance on that, Rob. But even if we are, 3 games to your point of your line, I don't think they're going to be serious buyers. I think, to be honest with you, my opinion on this team, and this is what I feel the front office is thinking, and this is quite honestly a smart idea. We had the whole David Stearns discussion last podcast, right? We have a front office that's in flux. we have a team that has talent on the roster, but we don't exactly know what the ceiling for this team is with what we've seen thus far in the first few months of the season. I think what's going to happen is because you still have Max Scherzer, if I'm not mistaken, under the control next year. You have Justin Verlander. You have Kodai Senga. You have all these guys. The only guys that are going to be leaving is the vet bats. Escobar is going to be gone probably. Canna's going to be gone. Vogelback's going to be gone. You guys, you have those coming off the books. What I think is that whatever happens this year happens. Whether they make the playoffs or not, they're going to stay pat at the deadline. This offseason is going to be the most important Mets offseason in probably a long time. That's what I'll say. In terms of shaping the way this team looks like for the next decade. That's what I think they're going to wait to sort of make any big moves. I don't think that Steve Cohen is going to let Epler, not that I'm saying Epler is going to even do it. He didn't do it last season. What makes us think that he's going to trade any sort of top prospects this season? I don't think it's going to happen. My line of demarcation is 5.5. That's currently where we're at right now. If things don't get better between now and the deadline, I think, sure, go ahead, be sellers. You mentioned David Robertson, who would be great to flip and then sign again when Diaz comes back next season. And Diaz is a whole nother topic because he just started throwing at Citi Field. Regardless of however you feel about it, I mean, that sort of time frame between when he's throwing now versus when his injury happened is remarkable within itself. But there's a lot of different ways the Mets can go. I don't think they're going to make any rash decisions, just like they didn't make any rash decisions last season. Maybe they had David Stearns on their mind last season, which is the reason why they didn't want to make those rash decisions last year as well, albeit it was a 101-win season at the end of the day. Like I said, they're not going to be buyers. Who knows if they're going to be sellers? I think the morale of the highest payroll in baseball, and like I said, I hate to bring it up. We don't really want to bring it up, but it is a fact, right? Being sellers after having a high payroll like that is just not good optics, especially we all know the eyes are on the Mets. Someone in the comment section here just said they saw somewhere along the lines of the Mets don't make the playoffs is the biggest disappointment in sports history, which I think is very far-fetched. But we'll see. 5.5 games to me. Do I think the Mets inevitably make the playoffs with the wild card? I do. Like I said, the division's out of reach. I'm not expecting the division. If you're expecting the division, don't get your hopes up. But the wild card is still in play. I think they stay pat because, like I said, what separates really this team from being a playoff contender and not is the starting pitching. It's just consistency of the starting pitching. The talent is there. We need to see that. The offense, how much better are you really going to get at the trade deadline offensively? We just said that the offense is not the problem. So I don't see them being any sort of buyers for any sort of offensive pieces. We're going to see what happens with Ronnie Mauricio, though. I heard we're not going to get to him today, but he's pushing for a call-up last time I checked on Twitter. Yeah. He's pushing the Mets button. So that's, and as he should. There was some speculation as to why he's not called up just yet. Maybe some odd speculation of him maybe being traded, not having a position at the Major League roster. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't want it to happen, but I can't see this team being buyers. I can't see them being sellers either. So I think they just stay with the current roster and just let it ride, hope to make the playoffs and save face in terms of the optics, and just wait till David Stearns comes on board. Unless, any unforeseen circumstances happen. But that's my opinion on it, and I think that's what they're going to do inevitably. They don't want to make any rash decisions. And honestly, if I were them, I wouldn't either. I know a lot of Mets fans on Twitter are going to go buck wild when they don't see the Mets making any moves at the deadline to improve the team. But I'm expecting it, and I think everybody tuning in and watching this should expect that as well.
Go ahead, Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, I think hearing the term selling and Steve Cohen in the same sentence is a disgrace. Understatement to say. I don't know if they would essentially, I guess as the term sell, I could see them kind of just not doing anything. Kind of just letting it ride out, maybe acquire some BS, reliever, trade, whatever. But like I said, I guess, obviously, Rob, you said what, 3 or 5? Chris said about 10. Yeah, I'd probably say somewhere in between that, like a 7, 8, 9, 10. It really depends. The Braves are the team to beat. I think they're one of the best teams in the NL, one of the best teams in baseball. And that's without Dansby Swanson. That's without guys like Mike Soroka fully healthy, Ian Anderson, and a lot of other guys. Marlins are a good team. Hate to break it to everyone. I live in Florida. I see the Marlins a lot. They're a good team. They are. They have their young talent, and this is without Senny Alcantara pitching well. So, yeah, that says a lot. Phillies, I know everyone says it, but the Phillies are a good team. Hate to break it to you guys. The Phillies are a good team. Offensively, they are a good team, and their pitching is starting to get their stuff together, which is a little scary. And I guess we're competing with the Nationals for 4th place, which is pretty disgraceful. But with that said, yeah, I don't really know what they're going to do coming, what is it, August 1st or July 31st? I don't really know what they're going to do. Like I said, it depends where the NL East is and where the Mets are, and just if their confidence in the production and the results you're getting from your pitching. If you're winning ball games, go for it. But if you're playing like how you are now, well, I would just sit back and let the rest of the season ride out. Obviously, this is going to be a big offseason. Chris said this is going to be a huge offseason. Canna's a free agent. Escobar's a free agent. I don't think they have any plans on bringing those two guys back. I think Beatty's going to obviously take over Escobar's spot every day. Canna left field, you'll probably find someone else to take that spot. I mean, maybe down the line, 2-3 years from now, you could think of an Alex Ramirez or whoever else, Carlos Cortez or someone like that. But, it's going to be a big offseason, obviously. I mean, whenever it says the future, well, that'll be Beatty, Vientos, obviously getting the everyday plays. Hopefully Mauricio, we'll see. But right now, I guess it comes to, well, what do they have? I mean, I would say the only guys that could be considered on the market to sell is really Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canna, and David Robertson. I don't think anyone would want that Marte contract.
Tommy Pham?
Yeah, Tommy Pham too. No one's going to want the Marte contract. Like we said, Robertson could probably get you 2 prospects pretty decent, and especially his trade value is much higher now because he's having a much better season at this time than he was last year in Chicago. So I don't know, but at the end of the day, I don't think the Mets are going to do anything. I just think if they're playing bad, they're just going to keep the same 26, 27-man roster and just ride it out. But if they are in contention and, maybe they're, the Marlins are doing whatever, the Phillies are kind of keeping close, maybe they do ride it out. Keep in mind, an interesting thing to bring up is the Mets haven't played a lot of divisional games this year. And say that all you want, with the new balanced schedule, but we played the Phillies once, the Braves twice, the Marlins twice, and the Nationals twice. That's pretty interesting. Obviously, we'll play the Phillies a second time this week, but I feel like last year at this time, I mean, we at least had the Phillies already done, the Marlins halfway through. I don't know. I think it's interesting, playing new teams, but I think that could definitely be a big factor. But right now, like I said, I could see it going either way. I think if you're 12 and a half games back from first place, okay, the Mets are not winning the division. I mean, I don't care for the division. Get in the playoffs, and then, like I said, bring the girl home, you got to get to the dance. And in order to get to the dance, just make the playoffs. I really don't care. Whether it's wild card, like we've seen, NHL, it's very similar. Any other sport, it doesn't matter if you win the division or not. Just ask the Phillies that. Doesn't matter. So get to the playoffs. However, I don't see that happening with the Marlins, with the Reds, with a lot of these good teams that are coming out of nowhere. I mean, there's a lot of mid teams in baseball this year, a lot of 500 teams, the Reds, the Pirates, whoever else, of course. Teams that nobody
Diamondbacks. Don't forget the Diamondbacks. They're 14 over 500 right now.
I told everyone the Diamondbacks are going to be good.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Diamondbacks are a good team. In that division, NL West is tight. I mean, the Giants are actually playing pretty well. The D-backs, the Dodgers. So those are 3 teams there. The Central, who the heck knows who's going to win that division? And then you got the East, and it's really 3 teams, the Phillies, Marlins, and Braves. So, I mean, you got 3, 6, and then maybe 7, 8. So, I mean, it's really going to be a dogfight. So it's not like last year where, you had a luxury spot and there were only a lot of bottom feeders in the NL. The NL's pretty close this year. So we'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, I think regardless, I just don't think they'll do anything. If they're playing well, then yes.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick? It's June 19th, right? It's June 19th. I want to say this is a way too early prediction, but I just want to say it. If the Mets strike out on Ohtani this offseason, I bet you they reunite with Michael Conforto. I bet you that happens.
He has a 2-year deal, right? Or is it a player option?
I think it's a player option. I think that was just a true 1-year deal, prove it year for him. So
I go after Conforto again.
that's what what was
I
that?
mean, why not? He's better than
I
Bobby.
get Conforto and JD Davis. Everyone killed me. I love JD Davis.
JD Davis is my guy.
Biggest JD Davis fan out there.
Crazy. Just
Yeah,
Mets
and
love, right?
listen, guys. I mean, you guys are right on all that. Like I said, we have different of opinions about buyers and sellers. That's fine. Different types of games, whatever like that. Both of you think it's going to stay pat. One of us, I think it's going to be about 3. I think they can sell if it's 3 games or more. So we'll see. But you know what? The one thing is the fact that the National League isn't very good, right? Everybody looks good during a 10-game stretch when you go 7-3, right? The Mets look good on the West Coast in April. 7-3 road trip, right? The Reds look good in a 10-game stretch. The Phillies look good in a 10-game stretch. Everybody looks like the best team in baseball when they have a good 10-game stretch, right? I don't think any of them are really good. I think the Phillies aren't that good. I don't think the Reds are that good. I don't think the Brewers or the Pirates are that good. And the Marlins, they're okay. But listen, everybody was laughing at the Mets beating the Marlins early April, right? Oh, you're beating the only team you're beating are the Marlins. Well, guess what? The Marlins are a good team, and they probably always were. So all these teams are bunched up like the Mets. The Mets, if you put the Mets compared to everybody else that's in front of them from the Marlins all the way down to whoever's in front of us in the wildcard, 4, 5, 6 teams, right? If you put every one of them and say play it back to your baseball cards, the Mets are probably better than all those teams. And guess what? They are playing those teams the next couple of weeks. They're playing the Brewers. They're playing the Phillies. They're going to be playing a couple of teams that are fighting for a playoff spot that the Mets are either in front of. Most of them are in front of the Mets, but they're playing them. So guess what? You beat them, and it takes a week to get right back into the mix. And that's all it is. And like Hayden said about the division teams, we haven't really played a lot of division games. And the division teams with the Marlins, we played them in September a decent amount of times. So that's a team that we're chasing, aren't we? So we get the opportunity, and that's why I say it's so important to stay where you need to be. Stay within striking distance, because you get a stretch in September where you're playing that team. All you got to do is win, and you have your own. You can make your own destiny, and that's basically what it is. You want a chance to go into a series and says, if you win, like the Mets had an opportunity to win a division in Atlanta. They didn't do it. But if they have the opportunity again, wouldn't most Mets fans take that opportunity? If I say today, if the Mets on September 17th have a 4-game series against the Marlins, and that's probably going to decide a wild card spot, you wouldn't take that opportunity? Of course you would. Just because it didn't work out last year with the Braves series doesn't mean that you don't want that same opportunity for another playoff spot. That is the most important thing that I think is that we think we're kind of like blowing over, like we don't want that opportunity. So, because you were going to say something, sorry.
Yeah, and just before we get off that point, I completely agree with you. We have been saying that. I think someone in the comments said we have been saying that because it's been true the last couple of series, and we're still only 5.5 back. We play these teams that are ahead of us. Rob, you make a really good point. But to tie that into the conversation of being deadline sellers, I don't think that you need to. I think that is true. It's either put up or shut up time, right? And I think they're going to roll with the same team because this team, as currently constructed, is either going to do it or they're not. Right. So I don't, and that's to Hayden's point. I think that this team, as it currently stands, they might make 1 or 2 piddly moves, whatever they want to do. It's going to be a lot of the same thing as last year. I think it might even be moves that are even less than last year, as sad as that is to say. But I think that this team is, as currently constructed, to your point, Rob, can make that happen if they beat the teams and they start winning now. But if they don't, they're still not going to be sellers. They still have this opportunity to get back into the race for the next 2 months, unless they let it get to a point where they're 12 to 13, 14 games back. But if they keep it at 5.5 to 7.5 games, this roster can still make their run just because of who we play. And like you said, the Marlins aren't any better than this Mets team right now. The Phillies probably are, but on paper, we've already seen that we can beat them, especially, on the field. And on paper, I think that, we can compete with them. Who else is ahead of us? The Brewers, like you said as well, they're not any better than the Mets. So it's put up or shut up time for the Mets. And that's what I want to say. So to your point, 100%, Yes, they can get back in this race because of the teams who are playing, and credit to the schedule not playing the NL East until later on in the season. But this roster, it's going to be this roster. It's not going to be any shakeup to the roster that's going to make that happen.
Yeah. And before we finish it up and get everybody's outro and let everybody know what you're going to be doing with your channel in the coming days, I'm looking at the schedule right now. After the Houston series, Philly for 3, Milwaukee for 4, San Francisco for 3, Arizona for 3, San Diego for 3. All of those teams are in front of us right now. So these next 2.5 weeks are exactly what the Mets need to get back in a playoff spot. Now, after this, if they have a bad stretch, there was like 15 games, about 12, 13 games. If they have a losing record, they're probably in trouble. Let's just be honest about that. And you know what? Milwaukee, San Francisco, they're right around us. They're in front of us right now. It's at home. And then we go on the West Coast to Arizona and San Diego. So those are the teams you got to beat. Get headed.
And that's the thing. I mean, I said this a lot in 2021. Rob, obviously, I mean, you probably remember me in 2021. I was not happy. And I would say I'm feeling that same level right now. You cannot rely on other teams' success or failures for your success. I think it'd be, like I said, really bad for this Mets team to have to rely on the Giants failing, the Phillies failing. You know, I'd love for this team to be able to succeed on their own and control their own destiny. That's the moral of the story for the rest of the season. The Mets control their own destiny. It's that simple. If they want to play baseball in October, they control their own destiny. Otherwise, all of us will be sitting here in October saying who we're going to root for in the playoffs. And, you know, the whole gang on the roster will be sitting home on their couches, you know, ooh, can't wait till next year, you know, see you in Port St. Lucie and that sort.
Exactly. So we're going to finish it up, guys. I will have my live stream for tonight's game. I'll be coming up on the pregame 7:50 for Mets Astros. So, Chris, take it away and let everybody know what's coming up on your channel in the next coming days.
Yeah, I always appreciate doing these every Monday. Really happy to be a part of this, talking with you and Hayden and the rest of the guys who couldn't be here today, unfortunately. But Mets live stream, post game show right after the final out today with my other guys on my channel. Subscribe, drop your comments, let us know if it's a loss. Like I said, one thing I don't do on my channel is I don't BS everybody. I truly state how I feel. I think that this season, the division is lost, right? We've said that already. It's the wild card or bust. I don't think they're going to make any groundbreaking moves at the deadline. But if you guys want full-fledged, unbiased opinions, I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to call this team out when they need to be called out. So subscribe to the channel. Post-game show going up today. Going to be doing more post-games. Interstate Mets. Go follow on Twitter at Interstate Mets. Nelson and I, from Amish Country Mets fan, are going to be doing a Mets Day after show starting June 27th. So keep an eye on that. And as always, appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Hayden?
Yeah, Mets Talk with Hayden here. Hope everyone is doing well. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Mets Talk with Hayden is the name. Obviously, do live streams in regards to series summaries and previews. Farm system analytics, right up my knowledge of expertise. Videos in the off season, analysis, all that great stuff. I'm honest. I don't BS anyone as well. I tell the truth. When I see something, I say it. Did a live stream earlier today. I will be out of town. I will be going up north for a little bit. So I'll be probably live at a different location. That'll be great. I'll share some of my traveling on Twitter. So hopefully you guys could keep an eye out on that. Otherwise, super excited, happy that we got a good crew to do live streams with the podcast. Definitely a lot of good YouTubers, Mets YouTubers, baseball content creators on YouTube. I definitely think we have definitely a good squad here. With that said, otherwise that's all I got. Let's go Mets. Subscribe, like, notifications, all you got to do. Not optimistic about the Astros series. I have them getting swept or at least taking 1 of 3, but hopefully they'll bite. Hopefully those words will bite me back. Like Rob and I said, if they sweep, he's getting me a keg, or if they win the series, I'll shotgun a beer of anyone's choice, of course. So comment whatever type of beer or drink, but I probably won't be because I'll probably lose. But with that said, let's go Mets. Let's ride, baby.
All right, guys. So again, of course, Anthony and Keith couldn't be here today, but shout out to those guys too, and don't forget to follow and subscribe on their channels and podcasts as well. Those guys know what they're talking about. That's why I want them to be a part of this, because they're truthful. They say what they want to say, and they're not ashamed to say it, good or bad. And that's why I like these guys a part of this podcast, and of course, a part of my channel, because anything that can make a channel better, I would love on my channel, and of course everybody else's channel as well. So once again, guys, I'll see you in less than an hour for the Mets and Astros game 1. Let's see what Scherzer can do. And I want to thank Chris and Hayden again for coming on another Mets RoundTable podcast. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. And if you missed anything, just go back to any of our channels and check out the stream, and you guys can watch it from the beginning. So with that said, I think the Mets are going to take 2 out of 3. Chris said 2 out of 3, and Hayden either says 1 out of 3 or a sweep for the Astros. So that is our prediction. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning into another Mets Roundtable podcast. As always, Met fans, let's go Mets. I will see you guys next time. Have a great night, guys. Guys, thank you so much. Have a good night, guys.
Make it happen. Where there's a Mets man, you'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year for all your Mets here. Let's go.